Hey y'all, Billy from Perma Pastures Farm. Haven't done one of these in a long time. And just right off the bat, I want to give a shout out to my friend and mentor, Danny down at Deep South, the master of the front porch talk. So, with that said, the other day I was on the phone with Mr. Danny and Miss Wanda down there in Deep South. Me and Michelle, and we were just kind of chewing the fat, hanging out, and as usual, whenever I decide to record anything, all of a sudden the rooster starts tripping. Every single time. And it happens to just about everybody else that makes any kind of recordings. But anyway, on the phone with them, I was kind of reflecting over the fact of a video that I had thought about making for some time, but just couldn't really find a good way to go about it. And then it hit me like a ton of bricks. And that video being proof that God exists. Okay, if you can look around you and not come to that conclusion, I'm going to maybe help you out a little bit. But let me tell you first what kind of inspired this. Y'all, if I had a nickel, and I'm sure a lot of you out there, if you had a nickel for every time I come across some hipster, and they always say within 5 minutes of meeting them, you're always going to find out, A, I'm a vegan, and B, I'm an atheist. Just about every single time. So when after a while, I get sick of dealing with this synthetic authenticity of these hipsters, because if you're so original and so deep, then why are all the other hipsters saying the same exact thing? So I would submit to you that maybe you ought to re-examine what you think and how you think, because it's reflective. You're all different, but you're all saying the same exact thing. Maybe you don't know that. Maybe with time and you grow up, you'll probably come to that conclusion. Okay, I can't help you with the veganism, but maybe I can offer a few things that you might consider concerning atheism. Okay, so you're watching me right now if you didn't already turn off the channel. Now, before I get into that, I make no bones about the fact that I am a Christian, American, heterosexual, pro-gun, libertarian person of color, which at the same time probably makes me one of the most dangerous people out there for the powers that shouldn't be. I'm not buying their nonsense, never have, or at least I haven't for a very, very long time, once I really decided to take ownership of my own thinking and what I believe in, examining things for myself. With that said, a lot of these people I see in the permaculture space. So maybe, just maybe, I'll use some principles in permaculture. Sorry about the noise, y'all. That's William doing a lot of work right now, and unlike a lot of the other people his age, he isn't a hipster, and he does think for himself. So thank the Lord for that. Anyway, for those of you out there that maybe engage in a little bit of Gaia worship or some of this other stuff, let me just ask you to consider some of the most fundamental tenets in permaculture, and that's pattern recognition. Typically there are 8 of them, and they consist of waves, streamlines, cloud forms, lobes, branches, nets, and scatters, if I remember correct. And then they all conform with what we'll call, I got props here, at least I'm going to try to work with one. They all work within what's called a core model, okay? So every pattern I just described works. Now, I'm not the world's best artist here, but they work within this tessellation or the core model, okay? I could probably spend a great deal of time talking about this, but you would be better served by checking out the great Jeff Lawton and his dissertation on pattern recognition. If you can sit through that and still think that this randomness, that everything just happened in and of itself, if you can walk away after listening to any of that or examining it for yourself, good luck to you. Okay? Everything, all those patterns, those 8 patterns I talked about, in some way work with it. There are derivations of this core model. Okay? So everything you see in nature around you, from the trees to the sky to the clouds to the ocean to the ponds to the animals, all exist within some one of those patterns. But I'll take it a step further. Like I said, I'm only going to give you the cliff notes on a lot of this. There's another little thing in nature, and it's called the Fibonacci sequence, okay? And it goes something like this. I'm not going to go too egghead on you. It's actually 0 plus 1 is 1. Now you take the last number, combine it with that. These on this side are essentially Fibonacci sequence. I'll just run it out a little bit more. 1 plus 2 is 3. 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay, 3 plus 5. You get it? It's 8, and it goes on to infinity. These numbers over here are called the Fibonacci sequence. It basically came from India, but the guy that made it known to the regular world was a dude named, well, he was nicknamed, I think, Fibonacci. Okay? Sounds like a dance, but I digress. What if I told you this pattern of numbers is extraordinary in how you see it come up in nature? Check out the petals of a flower, of a lot of flowers out there. You're going to find out that many of them conform to a Fibonacci sequence. If you take this number and divide it by the preceding number, you'll come up with what's called 1.618, I believe. That number is the golden ratio. That golden ratio is a pattern, and you see it so many times in nature, but I'll come to that in a minute. Let's talk about this Fibonacci sequence, and we'll also talk about this golden ratio. And like I said, I'm only giving you the cliff notes of it. So you got 3 bones in your hand, Fibonacci number. 5 fingers, Fibonacci number. 5 bones in your palm, Fibonacci number. Like I said, just the cliff notes. Same thing applies in your feet, but this golden ratio. You see that from a tip. I'm holding a lot of things here, so I can't exactly go into great detail. From the tips of your finger to your elbow, in accordance with the golden ratio. From the tip of your shoulder, all of it. From your navel to the top of your head, golden ratio. From your navel to the bottoms of your feet, golden ratio. Incredible, unbelievable patterns that repeat themselves over and over and over again. The curve of your ear, golden ratio. What else conforms to it? Unbelievable, numerous flowers, pineapples, seashells. Let's go a little bit bigger. What about tornadoes? Look at them from above in a snapshot. Golden ratio, which is also a derivation of the Fibonacci sequence. Hurricanes, galaxies, all of them conform to the golden ratio and the Fibonacci sequence. And like I said, I'm only giving you a very short, this is nothing more than a synopsis of the patterns that exist out there. Every single thing you see in nature that man didn't create falls within these patterns, falls within the Fibonacci sequence, falls within the golden ratio. Everything you see, from the clouds in the sky, like I said a moment ago, the trees, the core model, that happens in nature all the way around you. So I'll go ahead and put this down. And like I said, the eyeball you're watching me with right now, everything you see, because you're looking at it through a convex lens, which is your eyeball, by the time it gets to the back of your eyeball, to the optic nerve or whatever, it's inverted. How does it become right side up? How are you looking at me right side up? How does that happen? Nobody has an answer for that. I got an answer for it. And I know what that means to me, but to think that all of this pattern, if everything is random, if it all happened with one giant bang and everything is random, how do we see these patterns? They should not exist. Not in nature, not in your body, not anywhere. They should not exist. But these so-called intelligent idiots in today's academia or intelligentsia will all tell you, even though their very bottoms, their bodies and their bottoms, are a demonstration of every pattern I just talked about. That same tessellation I drew, every bone in your body is a version of a tessellation. It is an impossibility that these things are random, because they are not. You don't walk through the door of someone's house, see a painting on the wall, and just assume it painted itself. So how do you look at things that are unbelievably complex, like the human body, and say, it just happened? It burns me up, because you are fearfully and wonderfully made. But the powers that shouldn't be would have you believe the opposite. Maybe that's why we have no respect for life. Maybe that's why we do astonishingly dreadful diabolical things to our fellow man because, you know, we can dismiss their lives as just random. Maybe that's why that happens. Maybe that's why we have so many people taking their lives right now, because they've been taught through academia and all these intelligent idiots that they're nothing more than just randomness. Well, I submit to you that you're not. You're much more than that. And so are these other hipsters out there that choose to believe, you know, if you're a vegan, yeah, more power to you. But you are fearfully and wonderfully made, whether you choose to believe it or not. I believe it in you, and I think you should believe it in yourself. And if you want to think of something that is the most revolutionary thing out there, maybe stop believing this nonsense that's spoon-fed to you, that you're made to believe, that people tell you you should believe, just because some idiot with a PhD, and yeah, that's what they are, just because they have PhD behind their name or doctor in front of it doesn't give them a greater share of common sense than you or me. So just ask yourself, and ask them, in defiance of all the things I described in nature, ask them to prove this so-called randomness that exists when I see patterns everywhere. And if you choose to see it, you will too. All right, y'all, like I said, I could go on for hours and hours on this, but I would highly encourage you to check out Jeff Lawton, and maybe we can link that video down below, but you'll be glad you did. You'll be glad you checked it out. And he doesn't explain it, at least not from the perspective that I'm coming from, but he explains it in a way to where when you're all done with that, you should be asking yourself, who created these powers? These patterns and powers. How did this happen? Is it all really just random? Nah. All right, y'all, if you need anything from us, comfrey, bone sauce, remember, if you can still work the soil, you can still plant comfrey. You can even put it in your greenhouse or in your windowsill if you want. Bone sauce, world's best deer repellent. We got it right here. And guess what? It's made from them same bones that you see those tessellations in. That's how it's made. All natural. The way it was intended to be. All right, anything else you need from us, whether it's a freeze dryer, EMP shield, all down below. You can check us out on Patreon. We also got a really awesome podcast, which historically, as of late, I've been kind of saving this kind of information for the podcast, but I'm going to start doing these things more and more. All right, y'all, till next time, remember, you are beautifully and wonderfully made. This is Billy from Perma Pastures Farm, where permaculture is my passion. We'll see y'all next time.